This week, Highway is doing what thousands of you do every year, taking a break away from it all. And to do that, we've come to the spectacular North Devon coast, to the twin villages of Lynton and Lynmouth. Take a look through this. What a beautiful coastline. Down below us is the charming harbour of Lynmouth. Its name is said to come from the Anglo-Saxon Leona, which means the mouth of a torrent. It's here that the two rivers born on the hills of Exmoor meet. The rivers are the East and West Lynn. Crowning the top of the cliff is Lynton, whose centrepiece is the splendid town hall left by the village's major benefactor, the publisher Sir George Newnes. The scenery roundabout, with the wooded river valleys and majestic rocks, led the Victorians to christen it the Switzerland of England. Now I'm here at the edge of the cliff at Lynton, 500 feet above sea level, and I'm told the best and quickest way down is by the Cliff Railway, built in 1890. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Sir Harry.
They tell me your grandfather built this railway.
That's correct. He and Sir George Newnes got together. Sir George Newnes was the financer. My grandfather was the brains behind the business. And they got together in a private company and laid down the act in 1885 and built it in 1890.
Well, let's try it out. Let's have a ticket and let's see if it really is the fastest funicular in the West.
Not the fastest, the safest.
Is it? Oh, well. Some think the world is made for fun and frolic, and so do I. And so do I. Some think it well to be all melancholic, to pine and sigh. To pine and sigh. But I love to spend my time in singing some joyous song. Some joyous song. To set the air with music bravely ringing is far from wrong. It's far from wrong. Listen, listen, echoes sound afar. Listen, listen, echoes sound afar. Funicular, 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 funicular. Echoes sound afar. Funicular, funicular. Listen, listen, echoes sound afar. Listen, listen, echoes sound afar. Funicular, 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 funicular. Amid the stranger some should take to sighing, and like it well, and like it well. For me, I have not thought it worth the trying, so cannot tell, so cannot tell. With laugh and dance and song the day soon passes, full soon it's gone, full soon it's gone. From earth was made for joyous lads and lasses to call their own. Listen, listen, echoes sound afar. Listen, listen, harp the soft guitar. Funicular, 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 funicular. Harp the soft guitar. Funicular, funicular. Listen, listen, harp the soft guitar. Listen, listen, harp the soft guitar. Funicular, 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 funicular. Thank you very much indeed, Mike. Oh, tie off. Fantastic journey, thank you. Bob, how does it all work then? Water?
Water, that's correct. Yeah. 2.5 tons or 700 gallons in each tank.
And how many gallons did it take to get us down?
Well, there was 2.5 tons in the car itself, and the other one discharges water until we're heavier than this one.
Oh, that's how it works.
Plus your weight.
Thank you. I've lost a bit. How many passengers have you had?
Oh, I suppose over the years, literally millions, but you can reckon between 250,000 a year.
That's good, isn't it?
Some passengers.
Yeah. Well, thanks for a very nice journey, and a safe journey too.
Thank you very much.
Looking at the Bristol Channel at fairly low tide, it's difficult to imagine just how awe-inspiring the sea can be when a storm blows up. Local broadcaster Clive Gunnell knows this coastline very well. He's walked, filmed and written about the whole length of the Somerset North Devon coastline. Clive, the path, the coastal path, goes all the way from
from where?
Well, it starts at Minehead.
Yeah.
And goes on to Marazion, the north coast path.
Yeah.
And from Marazion it picks up again on the south coast path and ends somewhere just inside a pool.
That's a long way, isn't it?
It's a very long way. I've
It's all-
walked it twice,
Yeah.
but it's probably the most beautiful coastline in the world. I would back it.
I was looking over there at the Lifeboat Museum. Now, you have a story in one of your books about the legendary lifeboat men of Lynmouth, haven't you?
Oh yes, the Louisa. I think it was on the 12th of January 1899. There was a boat called the Forest Hall. It was being towed from Bristol to Liverpool with a crew of 15 aboard. And when they left Bristol, the weather was bad, but by the time they got to Bridgewater Bay, it was the worst gale they'd seen in this coast for centuries. The seas were enormous, and the skipper lost his tow. And he knew immediately, James Eulis, the skipper was called, that he only had the 2 anchors and he couldn't ride out that sea with 2 sea anchors. So he sent out distress flares, which was seen in Porlock Weir. Now, they saw them and they phoned the lifeboat here at Lynton. And that was the last phone call anybody got along that coast, because from then on, all the lines were down. So nobody could tell anybody. Now, in Lynton, they saw the sea coming in here, which was breaking over this jetty and over the tops of the houses. And they would have had to launch the lifeboat into that. And of course, it was rowed, it didn't have power. So they got together and talked about it, and they said, we'll take it by road to Porlock Weir, which was in the lee of the weather, and we'll be able to launch it there. Somehow they got together 18 horses, they put the lifeboat on its carriage, and they took it up there, up Counterbury Hill. They got it up there, pushing and pulling, and the horses, they got as far as Ashton Gate with the horses, and they were wedged. They could not get it round the corner. So they had another meeting. They thought, right, we'll send the horses on, and we'll put the boat on skids and take it across the moor. And that's what they did. They put wooden skids underneath, pushed it, the bottom one came out, they put that back in the front, push it on again. Met up with the horses and went on again. They got wedged again by a cottage wall, so they knocked the wall down. Little old lady poked her head out. It's 5 o'clock in the morning by now. And said, what are you doing? They told her. She said, I've never seen a lifeboat launched. So she got dressed and came with them. But they finally got it down at dawn on the beach at Porlock Weir. They launched it at 7 a.m. and they took the Forest Hall in tow with 2 tugs and took her across to Barry.
God, what a marvellous story.
Incredible story, isn't it?
Thanks for telling us, Clive.
Not at all, Harry. Thank you for listening. I'm going to go on now up the hill and walk to Glenthorne. It's been a treat to see you.
Good luck to you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. After the saga of supreme heroism, what more fitting than a Song of the Sea by some shantymen from Devon? It's from a collection by the late Mervyn Vincent of Padstow, who raised thousands of pounds for the Lifeboat Fund.
It is time to go now. All away your anchor. All away your anchor. 'Tis our sailing time. Put some sail upon her. All away your halyards. All away your halyards. 'Tis our sailing time. Feel the seas run under. All away down channel. All away down channel. On the evening tide. When my days are over, all away for heaven, all away for heaven, God be by my side.
Here we are, just away from the harbour, where the River East Lynn flows peacefully down to the sea. But the night of August the 15th, 1952, these peaceful waters became a raging torrent. The storm that started at tea time produced a night of devastation. The Lynton and Lynmouth flood disaster made worldwide news. 34 people lost their lives, 93 houses and buildings were destroyed, 28 bridges were damaged, and 132 vehicles were lost in the murky waters. Derek Harper was a young police constable who, fortunately for the townspeople, was on duty that night. Ivy Williams lost 6 members of her family that night.
Out of our family alone, we lost 4 houses, 5 housefuls of furniture, and 6 people. And out of only one thing was left out of our house, my own house. That was one wheelbarrow. And he was stuck right on the top of the telephone phone post, that thing, just above our houses. And then our boys, they couldn't get out the door because the water was so strong against the door. So they managed to jump out the window and get onto the pavement outside to tell my dad that the houses was going. And my dad and my brother was helping Mother out through the door of their house. And with the same, the 2 houses snapped back into the river just like snapping off a biscuit.
Okay.
And my dad went down into the river, but he managed to scramble out over the boulders to save his little dog. And then my oldest son, he took the baby and he swam across the road that was a river then, and he got into the wood and took the baby through thorns and brambles and all sorts to get up to our next door neighbour across the road from us. And when he got to the house, he hadn't got a stitch of clothing on him. But the 30-year-old, he and my dad was both washed down the road that was a river then. And my sister happened to be standing on the pavement, and she just grabbed them out of the river.
It saved them.
Yeah.
Now, you got the George Medal for your part that night, didn't you? What were conditions like?
On the particular night there, as I say, it rained most of the day, or drizzled first part of the day. Then we had the terrific storm in the late afternoon, early evening. And the conditions were really atrocious.
Because you would have saved people, didn't you?
That's part of my job. I was, 14 years in the force.
Yeah.
And at the back of my mind, the question of saving life. Also at the back of my mind, of course, was self-preservation. Yeah. And it was a really terrible night.
But you were actually on a bridge that collapsed, weren't you?
I went to Barbrook from Lynton Police Station in the early evening and saw a terrific amount of water and mud and bits and pieces coming down the river onto the road bridge. And later that evening, and when I was trying to get some help because I got cut off with some firemen, I was on that particular bridge. I tied myself onto a long rope with a fireman at the other end. And I swear to this day that when I was in the middle of that bridge, I felt it shaking and shuddering. And I feel still that bridge collapsed whilst I was on it, because I shouted as loud as I could, "Pull me in." Fortunately, the fireman did pull me in.
What effect did it have on your personal beliefs?
We learnt gradually of the loss of life. And in all, I think, 34 people perished in this particular area of Lynmouth there. And I thought to myself afterwards there, life is a good thing, it's worth hanging on to there. And as far as I was concerned, I wanted to help other people there. I still try to help other people to the best of my ability there. But life is the thing, it's the gift that's given to you, and you should hold on to it for as long as you possibly can.
Thank you very much, both of you. Even in the midst of terrible tragedy, people are still sustained by their faith. And here's a glorious reaffirmation of faith, "I Believe," sung by Lorna Dallas. Overlooking the harbour is this delightful little street known as Mars Hill. To these cottages came the first tourists to Lynmouth. It was the beginning of the 19th century. England was at war with the dreaded Bonaparte, and the English gentry could no longer spend holidays abroad. So suddenly this little fishing hamlet was transformed into a resort. Strangely enough, there's never been a proper theatre here. Visitors looking for a holiday show have either had to go to Ilfracombe that way or Minehead this way, where every Monday night, Jack Smethurst is appearing. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Harry. How are you, mate?
Nice to see you. Now, you're known mostly for TV, aren't you? For Love of Ada, Hillary, and of course, Love Thy Neighbour.
All like yesterday's, really, isn't it?
That's right.
A long time ago.
Yeah, years ago, you set off doing one-night stands all around the country, didn't
That
you?
is true, yes.
Now you're back again.
Here I am 30 years later, back doing one-night stands.
This is a beautiful spot, isn't it?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Magnificent, isn't it?
Is this the sort of place you'd like to retire to?
Well, all I will say is, breeds that a man with soul so dead, but never to himself has said, this is my own, my native land.
Well said, sir.
I don't know about retiring. Actors don't retire, do they? But what I do, you see, my idea of getting away from it all is not to go abroad. I do enough of that with my work. In fact, what I've got a converted chalet in my garden, and that's where I tend to go when I want to do all the lovely things in life. You know, read books, play music, do me VAT. You know, there's pleasant things one does, and that's my idea of getting away from it all, deep in the country.
You read poetry too, don't you?
Love poetry, yeah. Very fond of poetry. In fact, I've got a little piece, Harry, if you'd like to hear it.
I'd love to hear
Would
it,
you?
sir. I'll nip out a picture and you do it.
Nip out a picture, you do it. I'll put the bins on because it comes to us all, doesn't it, the old time? It's a little poem called A Small House in a Large Garden by Abraham Cowley. Ah, yet, ere I descend to the grave, may I a small house and large garden have, and a few friends, and many books, both true, both wise, and both delightful too. And since love will near from me flee, a mistress, moderately fair and good as guardian angels are, dearly beloved and loving me. O fountains, when in you shall I myself eased of unpeaceful thoughts espy? O fields, O woods, when shall I be made the happy tenant of your shade? Here's the spring head of pleasure's flood. Here's wealthy nature's treasury, where all the riches lie that she has coined and stamped for good.
Well, here we are, back up at top, about a mile from the centre of Lynton, in the Valley of the Rocks. A favourite spot for walkers. And they even tell me there's a famous herd of wild goats here. They're a feature of the area and very much at home among the rocks. To celebrate the fact, here's the Fine Arts Brass Ensemble to play, would you believe, The Lonely Goat Herd. Along the road from the Valley of Rocks is Lee Bay. Perched on top is an abbey. But there are no monks here. Instead, 70 committed Christians live and work here to create an unusual haven, a place of spiritual renewal. In charge is John Perry. John, this place started after the last war, didn't it? What's its purpose?
The purpose from the start, Harry, was to be a place where people could come, stay here, and find their faith renewed. In fact, many who come here discover a faith in the living Christ. Many who come here too welcome the opportunity to think through what it means to be a Christian in today's world. So certainly it's a place of faith.
What goes on here then?
Many different things, Harry. Of course, people come here for a holiday, but we're concerned that their holiday touches them body, mind, and spirit. And so we vary our program to meet the different needs. A lot of social activities, but a chance too to talk through issues that affect everyday life. So we have, for example, discussion groups. We have other activities that express the Christian faith in ways that are up to date and relevant, using music, drama, dance, mime, and so on.
Well, thanks very much for talking to us, John.
Thank you, Harry.
4 years ago, Hilary Saunders felt bereft. Abandoned by a husband and with a baby daughter to care for. She was at her lowest ebb, but she came here to Lee Abbey for a weekend holiday for single parents. What actually happened then?
When I came here, there was a speaker called Dr. Anne Townsend, and she spoke about self-acceptance, which was so relevant to us because most of us were wives who had been left by our husbands for other women. And that I don't think anything can compare with the terrible, terrible sense of rejection that you feel, because the person that you've loved and respected and lived with and had their child suddenly say, well, I don't want you anymore, I don't love you. You feel they must be right, that you are unlovable and unwantable. And you feel so terribly wretched, and your self-esteem is at absolute rock bottom. So when Dr. Anne Townsend talked about self-esteem, and she told us how even though the people that we loved rejected us sometimes, that God doesn't reject us. He doesn't. He can't reject us. He loves us. And the following year I went to Lee Abbey, and I felt very much more healed and more whole. And I met another single parent who was separated too from his wife. And we fell in love, and our relationship deepened very quickly. And we prayed together. It was wonderful to have met somebody of like mind and like beliefs. And he died suddenly. And that was the most dreadful, stunning blow, because I felt that, I thought, well, God, I thought you loved me. How could you do this? It just seemed so pointless. And I felt as if the ground had opened up and I had fallen down a huge pit. It was ghastly, really terrible. And yet I knew that if I didn't believe God loved me and cared for me, the whole setup, everything was so pointless. So I just had that to hang on to. I thought, he does love me in spite of this. And I just clutched onto that and hung on to it. And the first few weeks of my grief, I suppose, the first 2 or 3 months, 4 months probably, I felt as if I was hanging on to the hem of Jesus' robe, actually, with my eyes shut and my teeth gritted, and I was being pulled along and thumped along and bumped along the ground. I just felt I was just hanging on for dear life, for sanity, really.
And now, how do you see the future?
I don't really look at the future very far ahead, because otherwise I might think, well, in 10 years' time, Mary will have left home, I'll be on my own probably, and I'll be older and uglier. But what I do think about is tomorrow. I think, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this and that, or the rest of today is going to be great, and this is over. And
Live each day for itself?
yes, absolutely, because God actually doesn't give you the strength to see further ahead than a day at a time, and that's what he tells us anyway.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Hilary's story shows us just how valuable a place like Lee Abbey can be. And now here's one of my special hymns, perfect for this beautiful setting. Nearer, my God, to thee.
Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee, e'en though it be a cross that raiseth me, still all my song would be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. Though like the wanderer, the sun gone down, darkness be over me, my rest a stone. Yet in my dreams I'd be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. And let the way appear steps unto hand. Oh, that thou sendest me in mercy give. Angels to beckon me, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee,
Well, I hope you enjoyed that break as much as I did. Next week, Highway goes to Canterbury for Remembrance Sunday, where you'll be meeting Felicity Lott, the royal wedding singer, who will be singing I Know That My Redeemer Liveth. And I'll be talking to the Archbishop of Canterbury. I'll see you then.